Hi, this is Gretchen with Raising Girls Classically. I'm still working on my intro a little bit. I want it to feel like a conversation, but I also want you to know the background of who I am. And so today's topic is something I care a lot about, and it is something that I've researched a lot about. So it's a little bit of a deeper topic. It's definitely for those of my friends who are believers, who are Christians. This is a great message for those who work at church, maybe in the kids area, or who work with youth. But this is for all parents. I wanted to talk to you about teaching the Bible to your children using the classical model. I really don't know that this topic has ever really been discussed. I'm not sure that it's really out there. But I think that it's pertinent that we look at it, because for so long we've puzzled as Christians with our children falling away from the Lord. It's one of the most devastating things for a Christian parent. When your child chooses to not follow what you feel like you've taught them or poured into them, the first thing I want to say is God gave us free will. So ultimately, your children are in His hands, and you've got to give them back to Him. We can pray, and we can believe, and we can pour into them, but they all have their own free choice, and that is hard sometimes, but it's also necessary for us to understand that sometimes we just have to pray. However, I also want to make sure that I say that there are things that we can do and that we should be trying to do, both in the church and in our homes. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is my background a little bit. I have been a teacher. I've been a public school teacher. I've tutored students, and I've homeschooled, and I've worked in the homeschool realm too, tutoring students. I've also worked in the church. I've worked a lot in the kids area for, the last 10 to 12 years. So I love children. I feel like we have to pour into them. They are our next generation, and we want to see all that they can do. So that's exciting. And so some of you probably don't have a huge background with the classical model. The biggest thing I want you to know about the classical model is it's broken into 3 stages. The first one is the grammar stage, and that's when your child is younger. They're probably 4 to 9 years old, and they are just great at memory. They're great at learning all of those little beginning things like the ABCs. Then as they get older, they start to move into the logic stage. The logic stage normally occurs somewhere in the 8 to 13-year-old range, and it's where they're now ready for more understanding. You can go deeper with things. And the last stage is the rhetoric stage. This is when they're ready to do their own research, when they need to start taking ownership for things, where they want to be able to teach. There's a lot of exciting parts to this. This is when they're really ready to use what they've learned. And so in the church, sometimes I have seen that all 3 of these stages don't perfectly get carried out. And so how it can come across is that those 3 stages can be done in the church, or they can be done at home. When your child is younger, like that 4 to 8, that is when you should be helping them to really learn the Bible. This is the part where you sing the songs, where you should be reading the same stories over and over and over again, just getting them to really know the Bible. It's like it's their foundation. They have to know it in order to go deeper with it. And I'll be honest, that can get missed. My husband wasn't raised in the church, so he missed that phase. And so when we got married, even though he had all of the stuff that he had learned in the Bible, he was still missing some stuff because he hadn't had that grammar stage where it was just drilled into him, where he knew all the stories. So sometimes we would have to go, let's go back and read it. I felt like, I've heard this story 999 times. And so that grammar stage is really important. It's a great time for you to be singing songs, reading the stories over and over again. I like Adventures in Odyssey. We did that with my kids. There's lots of great Bible stories in there for them to really have gotten to listen to it over and over again. Then the next stage is the logic stage. This is the time where they're ready to start going deeper, understanding it more. This stage you don't want to miss. Sometimes churches get stuck in the grammar stage and they don't have a place for this. And so the logic is all about understanding. And You want to make sure to be doing Bible studies with your child, going a little bit deeper with the stories, starting to talk about them. Why did this happen? Let them kind of figure some stuff out. And the last part is rhetoric, and this is when your child's probably a teenager, and you need to make sure that you're teaching them how to really research the Bible. That it's not even just knowing it or even having gone deeper. They're now starting to research, and they're starting to answer those questions that are going to get brought up to them as they get older. There's going to be people that come to them and say, hey, explain to me why you believe this. And we have to let them work that through in their own minds. We can say it to them over and over again. They have to have it here. They have to have worked it out themselves so that it's theirs, so that this is their faith. This is where they have to research if they want to know, well, what do I really believe about creation and evolution? What do I really believe about why God had so many of the rules in the Old Testament, and what does all this mean? Why did Jesus really come? Another thing that I have noticed is that I think that when God was creating the world, and when we look at the Bible then, because the Bible is the history of the world, that I see how he used a similar model. If you notice, the Old Testament is like the foundation. It's that grammar part. It's where we learn so much of who God is, who God always has been. It's where we see rules, and a lot of the times we memorize them, right? We memorize those, the Ten Commandments. We memorize other verses like in Psalms to give us encouragement. So this is really the grammar stage. And then we move into the logic stage, which is where we realize we need a Savior. Look at all those rules and all this stuff that God has put out there, and we recognize that we are full of sin, that we can't do this on our own. We see the logic in needing a Savior. That's awesome. And then the last part is the rhetoric stage, which is where God says, hey, now that you get it, now that you've experienced this, you need to go out and you need to spread the good news. You need to be speaking it out there. You study the prophecies of what's coming in the future so that we know how to help others. And we start teaching. And so the Bible is broken up the same way that we should be giving our kids the word. So especially if you're a children's pastor, if you're a parent, make sure to be thinking about those stages. Are you really giving them a firm foundation? Are you making sure that they know the Bible, that they have read it with you, that they've read it on their own, that they've heard stories? There's lots of different ways to get there. I can't remember. I had another tape series that I had the girls listen to that were just the Bible stories over and over again so that they would hear them and know them. Are you then making sure that you move into the logic stage? Don't forget that stage. When they're like 9, they need some Bible study. They need time to actually go deeper with the word, to understand it more. Don't let them miss that. And the last part, make sure that they're getting to that place where they're really researching the Bible. They're really researching the Lord. They're really figuring out what they believe so that they can stand up when someone else comes against it and says, you shouldn't believe that. So don't forget those stages. Value those stages. They are important. And so I hope that this is a blessing to you and to your family. I hope that it helps as you navigate and you give your children a firm foundation and make sure that they really know why they believe what they believe. I'm praying for you all. Have a blessed day. Again, remember you can follow me here on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram at Raising Girls Classically. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear if this helps you, if you found anything that really has worked well for your kids, if you have any great programs that you've seen work, let us know. I would love to hear from that. And I'm sure that other people would love to hear your ideas too. Have a blessed day.